Hey there, listeners, and welcome to a very special episode. This is episode 100 of the National Land Realty Podcast, where we discuss all things land. Our goal here is to inform, educate, and entertain those of you who own land or are interested in the buying and selling of land throughout the United States. My name is Mac Christian, and I'm the Chief Marketing Officer here at National Land Realty. I will be your host yet again for this episode. Now, this is a really cool thing. When we first set out to do a podcast for National Land Realty, the number one objective was to be able to provide value for anybody that could be listening. That could be landowners, that could be real estate agents that specialize in land, that could be just agricultural, workers that are interested in efficiency and new ideas. The whole platform is wide open when we first started this thing, and that's really what it's ended up being. We've had guests from everybody from the chief economist from Farmer Mac to agents specializing in quail habitat management. So the topics have been wide ranging, being that they all have to do with some level of land. We even had somebody that specialized in QuickBooks helping out real estate agents. So it's been all over the place. And the one thing that we can definitely say is that we are proud of it. I'm proud of it. And that we have definitely approached it from the angle of providing value to anybody that listens. And if you have given this podcast some listening time, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. We put a lot of effort into to getting good guests on this show, and we've managed to do this 100 times. So as a treat for this episode, we went live. We went live with partners of National Land Realty as well as agents and people within National Land Realty that have done really cool things. And what we wanted to do was focus on how they decided to get into the outdoors industry or an industry that has to do with the outdoors. All of us, everyone in and around National Land Realty has a extreme passion for working with land, the outdoors, hunting, recreation, anything like that. It's in our blood. And there's a lot of people out there that want to pursue dreams and goals that have to do with that, but don't know how to get around it or don't know what it takes. So that's why we put together Jimmy Riley, Jason Lupardus, Ryan Schroeter, and Brian Austin, each of which has impressive credentials of their own and a wealth of experience and knowledge. And they know exactly what it takes to get from your average 9-to-5 grind job into working with something that you're passionate about, such as the outdoors. And so this is a very special treat. It's an open conversation. It's a great conversation. I hope you enjoyed as much as I did. Now sit back and enjoy. And this is like the most fun you can have in one room with people, right?
Waiting on you.
I know.
As long as you're the one managing the buttons, I'm
all
good.
right. We are live. Well, so we threw it up in the top. We got a chance to brand this thing. And okay, so we are live on Facebook right now. And we have here Jimmy Riley, Jason Lupardus, Ryan Schroeter, and Brian Austin. And we expect possibly Ronnie Richardson to join us here in a bit. He had a meeting take him away. And Ramsey Russell is in Argentina. So if he pops on, it's going to be a little late. We're hoping he does, but again, he's in Argentina, and I don't know what his Wi-Fi status is. But if he pops in, we're going to count ourselves lucky and bring him on. But we do have this stable of guests here that I'm very excited about, and the conversation is why the heck we got into land in the first place. And everybody here has a unique story. We've got everything from conservation to software development, to a lifetime of real estate, to hunting, building a hunting island. Let's just call it what it is. Building a hunting island, moving into real estate. And I'm probably the most 9-to-5 out of everybody. So I'm just going to jump in first because it's why we got out of the 9-to-5. But I wouldn't try to call this whole thing a conventional 9-to-5. I started out as a graphic designer and moved into marketing. But my childhood is my dad was huge into the outdoors. He passed away when I was about 6, and my mom had a thing about making sure that didn't go away. And she she wasn't able to get around very well. She had an accident when she was younger and couldn't get into the outdoors as much. She was paralyzed from the time she was 18, and she just kind of sent me off to be around the outdoors, and like Boy Scouts and friends and uncles, and had me in the outdoors from the time I was little. I think my favorite photo is it was one of those 1980s parenting moments where he had me on a horseback at like 3 months old at elk camp. And that stuff just never went away from me. And I went through corporate life, and I always just, every time I would go into the office, I would get out and I would go fishing or hunting. And it was like, I just want to be around this. So I found a way to get the two sides of my life to meet, and ended up in the outdoors. I did a brief stint. I tried the conservation route even, and the politics were just a little bit out there for me. Like, it was very much a partisan politic thing. I did not blend well. I think I lasted like 2 months. And my joke coming out of that was I was so ticked off about working with conservation and finding politics in it that I made the joke that, man, I just want to do something completely the opposite now and go into firearms or something. And I ended up getting jobs in the firearm industry. And it was it's not every day you make a comment like that and it works out. And that was sort of my gateway into working around the outdoor industry. And so here I am as chief marketing officer of National Land Realty. And like I said, I have the most 9-to-5 thing, but I work around you guys. So I wouldn't call it exactly like a typical corporate environment. Y'all are not typical, but I want to jump in and kind of have everybody want to go through the story of how we all kind of got here. And I'm just going to work from clockwise. So I'm going to kick it over to Jimmy. How did you get into working around the outdoors? And I love your story.
Well, I actually started working, when I was, like most of us, 14 years old. I worked in a parts house for my daddy's best friend. It was every summer from the day I got out of school to the day before I went back to high school. And I hated that place, but I did my job, don't get me wrong, but it was all I could do and that was, we got there at 7 and we left at 5. And it was all I could do to stay awake back there in that hot warehouse, counting parts, checking parts in, putting them, stocking them on the shelves. I'm like, this is not me, man. But I need the money, so I did what I had to do. And went to college, and got a job on a farm during the summer through my college years. And I worked on a farm at Mississippi State. I worked on North Farm. I worked on South Farm. And I said, this is where it's at right here. I love being out there in the field. I love planting stuff, watching it grow, taking care of it. And I said, this is it. So I majored in agriculture. And when I got out, I wanted to be in soil conservation, but the government had huge cutbacks that year I graduated, and there was nothing available. So I took the next best thing. All of my buddies that were going to college were in poultry science, and they all went to work for a company called Marshall Durbin there in Canton, Mississippi. And they said, man, we need people. They're hiring people left and right. So I needed a job, so that's where I went. I spent the next 9 years inside of a chicken plant. I hardly ever saw daylight out of that thing, and I sure enough hated every minute of that. So that was not your typical 9 to 5. It was more like 5 to 9 is what it was. And finally got out of that deal, and spent that next winter recuperating. Got to do all the hunting I ever wanted to do. And then that spring I was catching white perch, and I said, you know what? It's time to put some applications out and give me another job. So I did, and I fell into the Giles Island. And I went over there not making much money. I was living on the island like a hermit. I was caretaker over there. And after that first year, the owner says, hey, come up with a plan to cover these expenses over here. And I did. And that's when we started the commercial hunting operation over there. And that was my, quote, career in my life right there. It was 27 years in the middle of the Mississippi River, 9,400 acres. Now that was not 9 to 5 either. That was, way before daylight, way on into the dark, after everybody's gone to sleep. But I loved every minute of that one. And, but it does get, the sleep, deficit does get next to you after a while on that deal. But when that ended about a year and a half ago, good friend of mine named Greg Clearman, y'all know him.
Oh, no.
Company. me and Greg shared many an hour in a tree together over on Giles Island. He would bring his customers over there and stuff. And so we go way back, and he found out I wasn't on Giles anymore, and he gave me a call. And he said, I want you to come sell hunting land with us. I said, do what? And I looked at Christy. I said, man, what does he know about me that I don't know about me? She says, I don't know, but I think you ought to listen to him. So the more we talked, the more sense it started to make, and I'm like, all right. I prayed about it and I prayed about it, and it came to me. This is what I need to do. So, and I don't regret it. And I've had my license for about 14 months now, and I feel really blessed. I love what I do. I'm at my house right now talking to y'all, and the physical aspect that I had over on Giles Island, I don't have that anymore. I'm not breaking my back every day. And when I want to take off, I can set my schedule. If I need to take Chrissy to the beach for a weekend, we can go do that. Time freedom means a lot at my age, I guess, after my first career. And I just love being out there. I'm still in the woods. I'm still with the hunters like I enjoy. I'm still out there with the animals and talking it and doing it. And then just, I have time to go hunting myself now. So that's big, because I never got to hunt when I was on Giles Island. When you're guiding hunters, you don't get to hunt. Okay. That's two different things. So for me, it's just the time freedom, and it's opened me up to a lot of things that I've wanted to do my whole life that I'm able to do now. And I enjoy all aspects of selling land.
Excellent. Thank you, Jimmy. And I wanted to throw in here too, for any of you attending and watching this whole thing, you can throw comments on there. We'll see those. If you got questions for us, throw it into the comments, and I'll be sure to field those and kick those in. Jason, I wanted to call you out next. Jason is the only one of us here that's not an agent for National Land. You're actually we work with you on a partnership level. Jason worked with Turkeys for Tomorrow. And the reason I wanted Jason in here was, one, because he's an awesome partner to have, but two, because it's just a different way of working with the outdoors. Like, all of us kind of chose a path that led us to the outdoors. And I wanted to piggyback on Jimmy a little bit there. I mentioned that my mom always got me into the outdoor stuff. My family my grandpa with his dad built a feed mill when they were kids. So we had it for like 100 years. And that was my summer thing, is I got shipped off to go work with my uncle and my grandpa in an industrial feed mill every year. And I was laughing about it, telling my wife about it the other day. I was like, I don't think I ever got paid for a single summer of work. It was hanging out with the grandparents, but it was just like, no, it's just labor. It just stays with you. But Jason, I want you to tell your background. How did you get with Turkeys for Tomorrow, and what got you into this?
Man, I can't eat up this whole episode because it's a long story. But real quick, just kind of my pathway or my drug into the outdoors, as with most men and women that are introduced, it was actually my grandmother. My grandmother took me fishing. That's one of the first memories I have of being in the outdoors doing something. And that's not as common as like a father, son, or granddad or whatever. It was my grandmother. My grandmother lived on Tennessee River. They called her an old river rat, and she loved to fish. And so that's one of my first fond memories. And that's how I truly got hooked a long time ago. As I was just fishing a couple of days ago in the mountains of Colorado catching brook trout, which was fantastic. And so fishing has always been my passion, but it's a gateway drug for most anyone to get into the outdoors. And I think that's really important to know. But as far as me being with Turkeys for Tomorrow, I've been here for about a year. My background is I'm a wildlife biologist / forester. I have multiple degrees. I bleed a lot of orange. And I'm going to say this really proudly this year, because UT finally won something in 15 years. Hoorah! And so I had to throw that in, guys. But little baseball love. But no, went to school at UT Knoxville, worked on my undergraduate degree there, and then moved into a master's degree working on elk introduction in the mountains of East Tennessee, which was pretty cool. And then somehow in there, I got woven into doing bear work. I lived up in Cades Cove in the Great Smoky Mountains, and I trapped bears for a bit, did some deer work. I've handled bats. I've done a little bit of everything, fish, you name it. I've got to do all that fun stuff in the past, and then moved on, working for a state agency down in Georgia, working with private landowners, which was, man, that's my deal, man. I love working with private landowners. I always have. And then after doing a short 6 or so years there, I got pulled in with the National Wild Turkey Federation as basically a wildlife biologist working in Tennessee, Kentucky. Kind of moved up the chain of command pretty quickly. Started doing a lot of projects across the eastern U.S., especially with the Forest Service, with the Natural Resource Conservation Service. Lord have mercy, help me here, and many others. And so worked there as a director of conservation operations. Also worked in development, kind of with philanthropic giving, all this kind of jazz. And then moved on to another small nonprofit for about a year, working as the chief operating officer for Union Sportsmen's Alliance, and now working for Turkeys for Tomorrow. I pitched it in, and as of this past week, we haven't publicly announced it yet, but I just stepped into our chief executive officer role for TFT. So it's been a hell of a great ride. Love every minute of it, and I'm eat up about turkeys. It's my passion.
Kind of jealous.
What else you want, man? Come on,
that's
me
good.
something.
I'm kind of jealous of the tracking bears around the woods. I just want to. I want to know what that's like. But
listen, I could write like a book on what trapping bears, almost dying a few times. I mean, I was an adrenaline junkie because I'm chasing down bears, I'm trapping them. No one ever knows what's going on. I've had to talk to men, women, children on a popular hiking trail. They come by and go, "Hey, we heard something in the woods." I'm like, "Oh, it's just me and a friend making some noise." And we got a bear in the background just, whining, a cub or something, and no one knew the difference. Besides some of the blue paint, basically tattoo ink I had on me when I'd step back on a major trail, and people looked at me like, "Man, are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine. I just spilt a little something on me, But yeah, trapping bears was a hoot, man. I've been very blessed to have a lot of that hands-on work. But honestly, that was fun, right? I mean, I got stories after stories, but I think some of the most important stories of my career have been more of, can I get someone to take this pen and make a change that's going to be impactful statewide or across a national scale? And there's those kind of things, man, that I think about. I dream about, like, what can I do to make that difference that's going to be impactful, not only for me and my kids, but for everyone else. And those are the things that I'm really focused on now. And trying to turn back this turkey decline, it's a big one for me because I got turkey issues. I mean, I wake up thinking about them. I chase them around the U.S., just like many other crazy folks like myself. And what can I do to make that difference? That's what drives me every day.
Excellent. All right, Schroeter.
Yes. Hey, Mac, congratulations.
All you now.
On your 100th episode. But before I start, I want to ask Jason, you still have some of those old bear traps around? They might come in handy down here in the Midwest. I don't know what I'd use it for, but
let me know what you need. We can take care of business.
Dude, he's talking about his neighbor's kids. Like, I don't know if I would give him those traps.
Hey, man, I got you, brother. You just give me a call later. We take care of that.
Yeah, exactly. Just leave me unsupervised. That's all I need. Well, my story kind of goes full circle. I grew up on a farm, roughly about 2,000 acres of tillable land, irrigated to dry land, corn bean rotation. And kind of like Jimmy, there's a couple jobs I had that I did not like. There's a couple summers I was trapped in a hog confinement building behind a power washer, taking care of the baby pigs, so on and so forth. Those summers did not like, but I guess I didn't have the long hours that Jimmy had. But so then I went off to college, took some real estate classes, got involved in that. And it was kind of funny how I even got my real estate license. One of the summer classes that I needed to graduate got canceled. And so then I went to the university office and they said, "Hey, just go to a real estate office, get an internship over the summer, write a paper. We'll give you the 3 hours that you need." Okay. I did that. The summer was up, and then those guys there at that office, they said, "Hey, why don't you've got all the classroom hours. Why don't you sit for your test?" Okay. So I did. So I was just about ready to graduate. And I think it was about 22, 23 at the time. Had my real estate license, graduated college, started selling residential. And that was kind of a part-time job at that time. And the other job I had was I was installing home theater systems in new construction houses, security systems, and security cameras. So I could go and come and go as I pleased on that, as long as I had got my work done, and then I could start my real estate. I did that for 4 or 5 years on the residential side of things, and then I just decided, I want to get back to my roots and go back to kind of the land side of things, the farming side of things. Met up with Aaron. I think that was about 2002 or 2003. And at that time, he had Premier Outdoor Properties with Cabela's Trophy Properties, focused on a lot of the recreational properties. And then I started going back and working on some of your farm tracks. And that's kind of how my whole career started, ended, and kind of went full circle right back to selling farmland.
And you're talking about Aaron Graham. We all know him, but he's one of the founders of National Land Realty. The former team captain of the Nebraska Cornhuskers, on the cover of Sports Illustrated, that guy was, and helped be one of the instrumental forces behind starting up National Land. Joined up with the original founders of National Land Realty and kind of put all of our butts on our seats right now. I taught him everything he knew. I have heard that, and he has routinely said how much Ryan Schroeter taught him about. He credited you with starting National Land Realty, I think.
Really? Okay. Yeah, that was a new one for me, but yeah, I'll take that.
What he said to me was something about royalties. I don't know what that means to you.
Yeah, they're coming in slowly but surely.
Okay, just making sure. Yeah, we got this recorded now, so we got evidence. Make sure that comes through. Brian, I want to bring and definitely wanted to get you on this episode because it is a unique thing that you've done here. You went off in true entrepreneur spirit and have done real estate, started Quest Hunt. You've been around the hunting industry for a bit. Tell us kind of your story and how you got here.
Yeah, man. I think for me early on, I grew up, both my parents worked super hard. My dad was he was a factory union worker. And I just remember him getting up most days and really not liking what he did, getting up real early, getting home real late, and seemed to work all the time. And just, I think at a young age, I just knew, like, man, I don't know what I'm going to do with my life, but I don't want to do that. Want to find something I'm passionate about and enjoy doing. And so I kind of always had that entrepreneurial bug. In high school, I started running hay crews and started a lawn service and mowing grass, and just kind of figure out that I could make a little more money working for myself than working for someone else. That led into a career raising whitetail deer. For about 10 years, I raised deer in captivity. Got out of that and started Quest. And so when I started Quest, it was a tough deal. We started pre-COVID. COVID hit, and we had a really fast growing business that kind of plateaued really, really quick. And out of necessity, I had to get into something that could make me money, but still be flexible, and land it was. So I went to work for a land brokerage and kind of got told by everyone there that, like, hey, you can't make a living selling only recreational land. And so I think at that point I had a chip on my shoulder and wanted to kind of set out and prove them wrong. And somehow I've been blessed enough to find a way to do that.
So for those listening and those that are going to listen later, tell them about what Quest Hunt is. Give sort of a rundown on what you've created here.
Yeah, at a high level, it's just it's a state-by-state whitetail hunting tournament. It operates in a team format, so 2-person teams. Each hunter goes out, hunts all year. They harvest a deer, and they combine those scores to compete against all the other teams in their state. Attached to the entry into the tournament, we have a discount buying group of about 50 different brands. So when people sign up, they get direct consumer discounts on about 50 brands in the outdoor space. And our big deal is people are going to hunt anyway. We just want to give them another reason to do so. Kind of like fantasy football. If you're going to watch football on Sunday, why not have a fantasy team and give yourself another element to do it?
And this isn't just for bragging rights. You have a large conference at the end of the hunting season where you do some significant prize giveaways for the winners and a large scale banquet. I feel like you're underplaying what this whole thing is, because this is really cool.
Yeah, I mean it's a big deal. I mean we're in our 7th year now. I think we paid out a little over $2.5 million in prizes in 7 years. Basically, what we offer is a $50,000 prize pack per state. So teams sign up for $125 a piece, $250 a team, and then they compete within their state for that $50,000 prize pack across the top 10 spots.
And you've grown to how many members now?
This year we should set it right around 9,000.
So 9,000 competitive hunters, and you're not in Idaho,
No.
which we don't have that population. I get it, but no, it's a cool app. Everybody go check that out. Check the states that if you're in a state that offers it, it's a cool opportunity. It for much less than you're probably going to spend during your hunting season is the membership for this and the chance to get into it. It's a very cool thing. I guess it depends on how you spend, but just in guess, I'm guessing you're probably going to spend enough. So it's a cool opportunity. So of everybody in here, how many of you started, just from your backgrounds? Ryan, I know that you didn't jump into corporate life at all. Jimmy, I don't think you did. Jason, Brian, did you ever even venture in that area into sort of like corporate careers?
Personally, I didn't. No, I kind of always just found a way to do my own thing. I think I was just very anti-corporate.
Yeah, I tell you what, I was kind of a late comer into going to college. When I first started college, I started as a chemical engineer, actually, on scholarship. And due to some family things, I had to step out of college for a bit. And I had no clue that you could do a career in the outdoors. Never really heard about that besides being like a park ranger or something of that nature. And then learned that, hey, there's a whole other realm of possibilities and things that you can do. And so it opened some doors for me to get back into school and to try to chase my passion. And so, no, I never had a thought in my mind about anything corporate. I mean, I just worked. I grew up really working a lot of construction with my uncle. He's a commercial fisherman as well. That's another joy of mine. I got to pull fish off a stringer, off trout lines off Tennessee River a lot, or run the boat or whatever. And so I've always been engaged in some kind of outdoor activity. But yeah, I did a lot of construction. I even worked at Lowe's for, I don't know, on and off while I was going to college for almost 6 years. Which was pretty cool. I still have some great Lowe's stock today. But yeah, I never really thought I would be in this kind of arena. And I really like it, working for a nonprofit.
And I know for myself, I did go the corporate route at first and worked with things like Cisco Systems. And I came out of college in that early 2000s time period where it was like the mode of thought before that was kind of like, oh, you get a job, you stick it with it for decades and decades, and they take care of you and retire. And it was like during that time period, big layoffs started happening in tech companies, and then like your benefits weren't even guaranteed. And it was one of those like, well, if companies aren't going to be like loyal to employees, why would I possibly do that? And I started kind of blazing my own track, and didn't realize until later in my career I could have anything to do with the outdoors. For a question for all of you is, how did you brainstorm a path forward? Was it something where you just kind of found something and kept going, or did you plan this out? Like, I'm going to stick in the outdoors and make it happen no matter what. I'll go with you, Schroeter, first. What was the journey like? Did you plan this whole thing out, or was it just like step forward and see where it ends up?
I think I contributed everything just dumb luck. It just slowly came. I mean, it was a grind. Don't get me wrong. I mean, there was times I wanted to throw the towel in and say the hell with it. I'm going to try something different. That crossed my mind numerous of times, especially the first few years, until you really make it. I think it was like 2008 or 2009 is when you kind of really made it, and you're like, all right, hey, this is what I've been working for all these years. But yeah, the first few years, I mean, you would try anything and everything, even to walk around neighborhoods, knocks on doors and talk to people. Yeah, like I said, it's just sticking with it and dumb luck.
Jimmy, similar story or different?
Yeah. I think that, everything that happened to me over the 27 years on Giles Island led me to where I'm at now today with National Land Realty, selling hunting land. But I remember when I took that job on Giles Island, all I wanted, I was just like most people, I want to have a job in the hunting industry. Everybody wants to have that, but how do you get that? And so I said, well, look, I love taking care of land with all that farming background I had on all those jobs I had. I love being out there. And so I just want to go over here. This is a big piece of property now. This is 15 square miles in the flood zone. So there's a lot of extra work that goes on over there that you don't normally have on hunting land. But I just want to go over there and do that, take care of the land, and I was hoping it would lead to something else. And lucky for me, it did. And so when he told me, I want you to come up with a plan to cover these expenses over here. And back then, he was chucking out about $350,000 a year just for his friends and family to come hunting. And so I devised a plan of commercial hunting operation. And I just got on the phone and started calling people, man, and I invited a bunch of people over on a free dove hunt that first year to get them to see the island. And back then there was all I had was to start this business. I had a bag phone. This goes way back now. This is 1998. Okay. I had a bag phone, a 4-wheel drive Suburban, and that bag phone sat there in the console. I had a checkbook and I had a booking calendar. Okay. And I ran, back then there was only about 4 or 5 hunting magazines out there that you could even get. You had Peterson's Bow Hunting, you had Field and Stream, Outdoor Life, those few. And I ran a little ad back then. It was a 1-inch by 2-inch ad in the classifieds on the very back page.
This is the high level marketing that you threw down.
That was it, buddy. I mean, I'm telling you. And the phone rang off the hook because there wasn't that many outfitters. I was lucky when we started. There wasn't a lot of outfitters across America. And we got in the early stages of that. And I booked the season up the first year. And we always ran about at least 60% return business, some years 80%. And everybody's starting out, man. They tell me, you'll never make this happen. Yes, the flooding's going to be a problem. I said, yeah, well, I'm going to do it anyway. I just pushed through everything. I didn't know what I was doing. I had no marketing background. I had other advertisements I had to do eventually. We went to these trade shows, which are a nightmare for a trade show is a nightmare, but I made it happen. I figured it out. And as I went along and just pushed through and just bored through everything to keep it going. And we had adversity with the floods and all, but the deer they always swam off, but they always come back. And we were fortunate with that and just had we came up with we had a niche. And our niche was that we took 12 hunters every day for 4 months. Our niche was a one-on-one guided hunt. And in other words, our hunters didn't go to the woods unless they had a guide sitting over their shoulder telling them what deer is legal to shoot. Otherwise, if I'd have put those hunters out, they'd have shot us out of business in 2 years. And y'all know it. So it was easier for me to train those 12 guides than it was to train 380 hunters a year. So, and that was our niche all along. And I was fortunate enough to have a lot of good people that bought into what I was trying to do over there. And it worked year in, year out with huge consistency, a lot of big deer. And so all of that, and getting to meet all of these people, across the United States. I mean, we had hunters come from literally all 4 corners of the nation. And most, the bulk of it was right here in the Southeast United States, but people in driving distance. But we had a lot of people fly in too. So, and I was fortunate to have Mossy Oak on board. They came in there and started videoing all those hunts. That was a blessing, man. Every time one of our shows aired on TV, and back then there weren't many hunting shows either. So we were one of the few that were being visible there. Phone just rang off the hook for that whole next week. And I would just feel really blessed to be, have all those people in my career at the time. The timing that it all happened was extraordinary. And all of that and all those people I've met and everything is, I think, set me up for success in what I'm doing right now. And I just feel really blessed.
And Giles Island, it's right on the border of Louisiana and Mississippi?
It's in Mississippi, but it's on the border of Louisiana. Yes.
Okay. Got you. And so for a little bit of background too, for everyone who's just talked so far, Ryan Schroeter is the managing broker for National Land Realty in Nebraska. And what other states? Like all the states
Nebraska,
around there.
Iowa, and South Dakota.
Yeah. So every state around there. Ryan's one of the highest grossing people we have at National Land Realty. He's one of the most successful land agents in the country. Jimmy Riley created one of the premier hunting destinations in all of Mississippi. And I'm gonna call you. The guy got some celebrity status in all the hunting shows that you were a guest on. If you look up Jimmy Riley's name, you're gonna find him everywhere. So when we're talking about making careers in the outdoors, like these people here have definitely done it. And Brian, I wanted to piggyback off of what Jimmy just said for where you've been a part of the hunting circuit. You've been a part now with one of the more, I'm going to call it one of the more successful software platforms in hunting. What kind of drove you forward? Was it part of a plan, or did you kind of same story as Ryan and Jimmy where you just kind of trudging forward and seeing what works?
Yeah, I think it's exactly kind of points Ryan and Jimmy both made where I decided I was going to do it, and then I put myself in a position where there was no other way but up, right? So I just there was no other option but to figure out a way to succeed and just learn as you go. And I think that I didn't have a choice, man. Like most kind of entrepreneurs that find success, they tell you about how hard it was for how long, and that was my story. Just continuing to grind until I could outwork the mistakes I made, I guess.
If that's a very good point.
I like that a lot. Outwork the mistakes you made, because I've made a few.
Yeah, Brian, I'm stealing that last comment. That one's good.
Yeah. Jason, part of a plan for you, or is he just moving forward?
Man, I tell you what, I mean, I think just like Jimmy said, there's all these, some people may say coincidences. It may be the roller coaster ride of life, but I've went through some ups and downs and question, like, what am I doing here today? Should I keep doing this or not? But then you wake up the next day and maybe with a little bit of faith, a little bit of love around you. And thank God I have a fantastic lady in my life that's always encouraged me to keep on going at it. And next thing you know, you just kind of wake up one day, you're like, you know what? I'm doing exactly what I've dreamed about doing. And all these things led me here. It's like God has opened up these pathways or these doors. And sometimes you just got to take a blind leap of faith almost. Go, you know what? I'm doing it. I'm going to go at it. I mean, I even, started my own LLC on the side. And there's just been a whole lot of things that I've tried to dip my toes in the water on just to see how I can be successful and continue chasing my passion in life. And honestly, I mean, I never thought I would be in the turkey arena again after I left the Turkey Federation. I saw what I call as a dynasty that was built, and then I saw it kind of fall apart when COVID hit. And I still remember the day, 51 people just wiped out with an email. And that was tough. I had at that time 25 staff working for me. And it was a really hard day and hard months to come after that. But you know what? You just got to have some faith in the process and know that we're doing things for the correct reason.
So something I want to ask each one of you again and kind of go around in a rotation. And I want to steal from Brian here because good artists borrow and great artists steal. And I want to be a great artist. So you're talking about making decisions and outworking your failures. And I want to ask each one of you in any process, because like I've pursued my own career with the realization that there are no rules. There's all these things that you've been told from the very beginning of how to handle a career, and you get into it and you realize you don't have to do it that way. But when you don't, you're going to encounter a lot of failure and have to bounce back. And I want to ask each one of you how you handled failure and the work required to do so. And if you have, is it just wake up and grind, or is it, do you do some things to motivate yourself, and how have you overcome failures? So I'm going to start with you again, Jimmy, since I started with you last time.
Okay. All right. So we had before the season every year, I'd have all the guides come in, usually in the last weekend in August. And we would gather in and we'd have a bunch of new guides coming in. It would be like tryouts. And it'd be like 35 of them. Now, I only needed 12 every day, but I had to have about 35 on the roster because everybody's schedule's got the G-Hall. Not everybody can leave their full-time job to go guide for 4 months, right? So we had to piecemeal this thing together, and I had what we call the chief of guides, who was in charge of helping me organize their schedules and everything, make sure we had enough guides for everybody on every hunt. So we bring them all in August, and that first year, I remember I had like a 1.5 pages of rules and stuff, and expectations that we had of you being a guide on Giles Island. Well, every year something would happen over there on the island. Well, I'd make a note of that. And it might be usually more than 1, 4, 5, 6, 8 things would happen negatively that I didn't like. Failure, okay? Well, here goes another rule on that page. And that last year we had that meeting, that little booklet I gave everybody was about 12 pages long. I tried to nip everything in the bud that I possibly could before it ever happened. Because every time somebody would do, I'd say, I've seen it all now. And then next week, somebody else would do something stupid. But, and that's just the way I tried to handle it. I can't fix what's done, but I can try to fix what's going forward. And that's the way I handled it. So.
What about now? Like, you work in real estate now, and you switched your entire career here just in the last year. And I've had my license for 14 months now. Yes, sir. Right. So you've got like a year and a half into completely blowing up your career and doing something new. How have you handled adversity with this new pursuit? And again, in the outdoor space, and again, where you're kind of your own boss and you're doing your own thing, and you're building momentum now. So like, what does that look like in overcoming adversity?
I've already had failure, okay, in this new career. It has already happened, and it's probably due to my graciousness. A handshake deal works with most people, but not everybody in this world, and I've learned that the hard way. It's cost me a lot of money over the past year, but I've learned how to handle that. So had long conversations with Ronnie and Greg and a lot of other agents about it. They told me the same horror stories. So I'm not the only one. I know I'm not. So in other words, getting backdoored on some deals, and that's kind of a raw that kind of rubs you wrong. But I just forget about it. Hey, I can't fix what's done, but I can fix what's coming forward, and I've learned how to, not even waste my time on something unless I've got a signature.
Schroeter, I know that you've never handled adversity. I want to,
No, what I can say is if anybody's thinking about getting into real estate, you just got to understand it's a very, very humbling business. Just when you think you're on top, someone's going to knock you right off that log, and now you're back dog paddling in the water. So it can be very humbling, and there's things you learn as you go. Just like Jimmy, I wish we could all still do things handshake deals, but we can't. You just can't. Good, bad, or ugly, people will turn on you for the right reason, for the wrong reason. That's what I mean by it's just very humbling. And just moving forward, honing your craft, you'll be in there in a presentation with a buyer or a seller, and you said something or you did something. You're like, hey, that really worked. Okay. Mental note, write it down. That's what worked. Or the other side of the coin, in the presentation, you said or did something and you're like, woo, I'm never doing that one again, because that one just backfired on me. So those are things there. And then also motivation, it helps you too. I mean, I can remember back in my earlier days when I was switching offices, I had walked into the broker there that I thought was a good person. And after I told him I was taking my license, I was jumping ship and going over to a new place. We exchanged pleasantries, and I helped him clean off about half of his desk and stormed out of there. So, and that's one of those things that he said. He said, "You'll never make it." Well, it's kind of one of those things. Hey, look at me now. So there are motivations there that will all hit, and you're just like, well, guess what, buddy? I'm going to prove you wrong. So I think a combination of all of those.
Historically, how have you motivated yourself to do the grind, the wake up and go and do the tasks that, in your field especially, right? It's phone time, hopping on the phone, making those calls, getting rejected, or trying to find the success within that. How have you motivated yourself to trudge forward on the days that you don't want to?
A couple things. I mean, small rewards, like if there's something you want to do in the afternoon, you tell yourself, okay, yes, that's something I want to do. I want to go work on my Bronco that I just got and mess around with that. But I can't work on that until I make my phone calls, until I get through my emails, until I help the agents, or until I do something work related. So then that's my reward kind of for that day. Give yourself small rewards. And it's so easy to sit down in your office and you're like, okay, I've got to do this, but oh my gosh, this is a mess. I'm gonna spend a half hour cleaning up. No, don't leave your mess. Do your work, and then that's your reward. Those are the small things, that just little things that get you through day to day and keep you going. I mean, I give myself little rewards. It might sound corny, but that's kind of how I stay on track and keep myself motivated.
I'm going to skip you, Jason, here for a second, because Schroeter just said something about proving him wrong, and that's almost identical to what Brian said about being motivated and moving forward in the land industry. And I know on the software side that failure is sort of part of the business plan. So how have you kept yourself motivated, again, staying in the outdoor space and moving forward, even though you're encountering adversity?
Yeah, man, I don't know. I've just never been a guy that lacked motivation. Like for me, I'm pretty lucky to get up and do things I genuinely enjoy most days, And so are there bad days or parts of the job that maybe I don't love as much? Yeah, but as a whole, man, I mean, I have those kind of pinch me moments every day where it's like, I cannot believe that this is what I get to do, whether it's closing a deal or doing something on the quest side. And so I think that, and then probably internally, I'm just motivated by the ability to have some flexibility and spend time with the wife and kids and blend it all together. So probably not a real sexy answer there, but that's kind of how I'm wired.
No, that's a great answer. Jason, I know that outside of real estate, what you work with is probably one of the most people dependent things out of all of us. How do you handle adversity and the days where you just don't want to get up and do it?
I tell you, man, I will go right back to the outdoors, and because it's all. I mean, I've given kind of what I call the F speech before a bunch, and it's all about like faith, family, friendship, fellowship, usually around some good food. But when I talk about those things, honestly, man, I feel like I'm constantly just giving, right? And I'll talk about the faith side of this, and my wife can attest to this any day of the week, but she can tell. She can go, you know what? I think it's time that you need to go outside for a bit. Maybe you need to go fishing for a day. And for me, like when I've hit those hard moments where I need to recharge, I go out and get some quiet time. Because I need that, because I feel like I'm always trying to build relationships. I'm trying to breathe life into others around me. And so I have to step back. My pastor asked me one day, he's like, man, you got a lot of energy. And I'm like, yes, I do. He's like, what do you do? And I said, well, man, I usually have to go to a creek and go fishing, or I need to chase some stupid bird down one day. And all of a sudden, it's like I come back and I got the juice again. It's like if you want to, go scriptural here, it's like Jesus going to the mountain for a day, right? And he comes back and then boom, things just happen. And so that's how I feel. That's kind of where I go and just I dive back into really faith. I don't talk about it publicly a lot, but that's me, man. When I feel just recharged, I just feel like I can do anything. And I'm a very driven, motivated person. Don't know where it comes from some days, but it's just right here. And so yeah, that's me in a nutshell, man.
I'm going to take a shot in the dark here. Everybody in here have something similar where you got to get outside and recharge?
Oh, yeah.
I have it. My wife has a thing. It took a while to get there in our marriage because the beginning of the marriage is like, you need to what? You need to where? You get away, and you got to go through that, like the negotiation period at the beginning of the relationship. And now, after 14 years, it's like, we'll be sitting there and I'll just kind of get one of those, hey, I think you need to go fishing, which is never something I thought I would hear and now it's one of those, like, yeah, you need to get out. It's time, go away. and it's exactly that. I get outside and I just do my thing. It's either hunting season or fishing or hiking. And it's usually solitary. Like you get out, no other opinions, just you and whatever it is. And you come back and you're just dialed. And it's, you got to fit it in after work and all of your things, like Ryan said. But when you do it, it's nice.
Amen. Like today, man, I literally got home 15 minutes before jumping on here, right? And I don't know what went through my mind, but I got back. But the word is like warrior. Like I'm in warrior mode right now. And so when I come back, and I've been texting people like, I hope y'all ready tomorrow because we're about to pound, buddy. And so, I just feel like jacked up after a week of some mountain therapy and out of the heat. So anywho, it works for everybody. Everybody should take a taste of that drug and see how you feel.
I like that. So we're moving on to the top of the hour. I want to hit everybody with the last question and a good conversation topic, which is, people listening. I'm hoping we're interested in the title enough to see how you ditched the 9-to-5 job or how you chose a career involving land or the outdoors. And so, we got a fair amount of graybeard knowledge in here, and I want to drop some of that to whoever might be curious about how to do it or what to do, and as part of that too, because we're talking about ditching the 9-to-5, and that's because that's where it puts me into place is not a typical corporate job. Like I don't think any of us work normal hours. You're probably. I'm doing just as much work sometimes at 10 o'clock at night as I am, 8 o'clock in the morning or at noon or whatever. If I take a break, then I'm working till midnight. And I'm assuming you all are the same way. So there's a certain amount of grind involved into not going the conventional route. You don't clock out at 5. I want to see what your advice is, the most helpful things that you could offer to somebody who, let's put ourselves in the shoes of somebody looking at the career moving forward at a young age or at a transition point in their career, right? Similar to what you just went through, Jimmy, of how can you pursue it and what should you be ready for and what's your best advice? So, Jimmy, let's throw on the wisdom and what's your advice to somebody out there?
Well, you got to be self-motivated. That's for sure. Nobody's going to hand you anything in this life. That's one thing I've learned. So you got to make it happen yourself, whatever that looks like for you, and don't be afraid to fail. Everybody fails, and you learn from those mistakes, and you just got to push through it all. And at some point, you get to feeling like this is not where I belong. It's okay to change. It really is. I spent 9 years in a chicken plant. I did not go with my gut feeling 2 years in. My gut feeling was get out of there. And I didn't do it. So I suffered the next 7 years in there, and I regret that right now. But, sometimes you don't listen. And that gut feeling that you have, right from wrong, that's God talking to you. Make no mistake about it. Always listen to that gut feeling, no matter what career you're going into. And know that you may have to suffer through it for a little while you're looking for something else to change into. But if you talk to that man, he'll give you what you need. It'll be on his timing, though. It may not be as quick as you want it to happen, but it will happen.
I want to throw in my own here because I've been trying to lead y'all, and I would echo what you just said is listen to your gut. In my career, what I realized probably too late was don't burn bridges. I just when you're young and dumb, you think you're at battle and you're more likely to burn bridges, and you just don't need to. There is an element of who you know, and speak highly of everybody, and don't waste time on being negative, and people will come back to lift you up when you least expect it. And the one thing that is the hardest to learn is that there's no one to blame but yourself. And even in your failures and your successes, especially the failures, own it and move on, learn and adjust. But Schroeter, drop some wisdom.
A couple things kind of come to mind. Don't let the no become the negative. If you hear no, thank him for that no, because that no is one step closer to the yes that you're looking for. That's the biggest thing that you got to understand. You got to hear what they usually say. You got to hear 9 no's to get the one yes that you're looking for. So you can always thank him for that no and move on. And I've had people say, "I just said no. Why are you thanking me?" I said, "Well, that's going to be one closer to the yes that I am looking for." The other thing too, I don't care what business you are, customer service, pick up the damn phone and talk to them. Don't hide behind a text. Don't hide behind an email. Pick up the phone, talk to them. And also during that conversation, if you say you're going to do or be there at that time, do that or be there at that time.
That it's amazing how well that works.
And that works for whether you're selling real estate, whether you're mowing lawns. If it rains, call them. Say, "Hey, I'm not showing up there today because it's raining." Just in little things. You start a detail business for cars. Pick up the phone, call them, or even call them and say, "Hey, I'm done." Or, "Hey, are you happy with it?" And ask for advice. Is there any things I can do to improve? Or if it's great, then once again, if you're building your business, ask for those Google reviews, because that's going to be the biggest things that'll help you down the road too. When people are researching you, figuring out what you do good or bad, if you're the right person for them.
Jason, advice.
Man, advice. I may be out of advice. Everybody's got such good advice. No, that customer service is spot on. Relationships are critical. I'm all about getting to know folks and getting to know more about them than necessarily just the business, even, because that's I'm more about relationships than transactional relationships. I think you and I even talked about that when we first discussed some of this back in like January or December or whatever it was. And all about building value between people, not financial value, but personal value and how you connect with them. I think that drives and motivates more than anything. Trying to be positive. I'm kind of the cup is always overflowing, even if it's a nasty storm. I'm like, man, we're still gonna do this, and I think that really helps, especially with that team spirit overall. But that's it for me, man. Quick, easy.
All right, Brian, what's advice that you have to give, man?
And this advice to somebody who's looking at starting a career in real estate, is that the original question?
I'm just going to say outdoors in general. I mean, not everybody wants to be in real estate, but there's plenty of people in the world that want to be involved in the outdoor industry, hunting, fishing, whatever it be, recreational, camping. It doesn't matter, just outdoor stuff.
Yeah, man, I would say anything entrepreneurial. It's just don't have a backup plan. I hear people all the time, well, I want to get into real estate, but if it doesn't work, I can do this. I know for me, like there was only one way to look at it. It's going to work. I think if you go in and you have that backup plan and that easy thing to fall back on, it's going to bring adversity, right? Like anything worth having is hard to get. And so it's going to bring adversity. And so don't have that something to go back to when it gets hard, man. Just keep your nose down and find a way to get through it, I think would be my advice. And then don't ever doubt the power of your network. You know, I tell people all the time, like, there's so many people that you know today that don't know you sell land, you know, and make sure that whenever that opportunity comes for them, or they know a friend that's going to sell, that they know that you're the guy they can trust and will deliver for them.
How did you build the team for Quest Hunt? Was it people that you knew already that joined in, or was that going out and finding people?
Man, it was all, we've got 6 employees today, and every one of them except our web developer, they were all kind of fans of the company, participated in it at some level, and they're all type of people that kind of tried to help me grow when they weren't working for me, right? And so my goal was always like, I want to put people like that to work, and we're pretty blessed to be able to do that now.
How many of us would count people we knew for where we are right now?
Me.
100%.
So the one thing that I flag on when every one of you was speaking is relationships and making contact and cultivating good relationships. Jason, you're a good one for this, because as a partner of ours, it's not typically we bring a partner in this conversation, but it was just when we first met, it was exactly that conversation of I don't want to have a transaction with you. Like, I want to know that you're looking to give to us and that we are looking to give to you, and it has to be that. And there's that reciprocity kind of echoes across what everybody else is saying, and that's just. I think that's just solid advice for anybody looking to do anything. You know, if you're looking to get out there and achieve something, there's going to be people around you that help build you up, and it's good to, you're not going to know who they are. You can't invest in them ahead of time, knowing who they're going to be. It's going to pop up later by just being a good person and holding those relationships. Anyways, we are at the top of the hour. I think we've had ourselves a successful live launch. So I want to thank every one of you, Jimmy, Jason, Ryan, Brian. That shouldn't have. There was like some name commonalities there between how those lined up. But I want to thank you all for your time. It's super cool of you all to take time out of your day. I know you are all running the non-typical 9-to-5 thing echoes to this, where all of us are on the hustle all the time. So I know that it matters when you take time out. And so thank you very, very, very much.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Thank you, Mac. Appreciate you guys having the outsider on here.
Heck yeah. Anytime, man. Thank you yet again for listening to our podcast, this very special 100th edition of the National Land Realty Podcast. And just wanted to give extend my appreciation for the guests that were on the show. It was a live thing, so there's a little bit more pressure. We had to watch the profanities and keep the comments. No, we never really have to worry about that stuff. But being live does have added pressure, and so these guests were fantastic. And the show will go on. We'll be back with episode 101 here shortly. Stay tuned. And once again, thank you for listening to this podcast.